Now, please welcome the amazing Congresswoman Katie Porter. Welcome to The View. So fabulous, so fabulous. So when you started with reclaiming my time, I was like, uh-oh, she's about to put him in his place. I mean, we all wanted to just scream. I mean, I did scream to the television. I said, why the hell don't you know that she's a lawyer? Didn't he have any of you, didn't he know who you were before he came and sat before you?
Well, it's unfortunate that he chose to question my credentials. And of course, I am, in fact, a lawyer, when we was really trying to have a conversation on behalf of the American people about why he's trying to make it harder for our economy to recover from COVID-19. That's what he's doing. And he's trying to hide behind his legal interpretation, and he doesn't even have a real legal opinion from his supposed legions of lawyers to do this. So it's unfortunate that he chose a personal attack, but I'll tell you, it's not the first time that a man has underestimated me, and it probably won't be the last, but it doesn't usually go very well for them. You can ask Ben Carson or Jamie Dimon about that.
It doesn't go well for them, especially when you bring that whiteboard out. I would be shaking in my boots if you brought that whiteboard out when I was testifying. But Congresswoman, that confrontation was about the $455 billion in COVID-19 relief Mnuchin is trying to put back into the Treasury's general fund. So the Biden administration couldn't touch it, can't touch it. I've said all we have to do to see who is to blame for not helping is follow the money. Follow the money. Do you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. This money was designated by Congress to make sure that we can stabilize our economy. And taking it away from the Federal Reserve just creates more potential delay and more potential risk. It's the last thing our economy needs. And notably, Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell, who is also a Trump appointee, disagrees with Secretary Mnuchin. He's the one who would actually be deploying this money, and he believes that the economy is not stable enough. We know the virus spread is not stable enough, but we should keep the money there so we can put it to use helping state and local governments, which is going to be all the more important if Congress doesn't pass a full, robust COVID relief package.
Well, the current bipartisan proposal doesn't include another round of stimulus checks to Americans. Instead, it calls for more unemployment benefits. Now, we're seeing lines for food banks across America, and Congress dragged its feet long enough. So I think we need to get money to people fast. Wouldn't the checks do that?
The checks would absolutely do that. And let me give another reason why we ought to be doing disaster relief payments. And that's how we should think about these. These are not stimulus payments. Putting food on the table isn't stimulating the economy. These are disaster relief payments because what our country is suffering right now is a disaster from this pandemic. But one of the reasons we should support these payments is not only do people need help, not only are people going hungry and at risk of losing their house, but from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, from protecting taxpayers, giving money directly to people rather than putting it in government programs that can be abused, that can have delays and inefficiencies. It's also the most efficient taxpayer protective way to get help and to spend the money.
So you have called out Mitch McConnell for holding up these negotiations because he won't budge on protecting corporations that you say represent the worst examples of disregard for human life. So he protects corporations more than people. Am I right? What's going on here? Tell us.
Absolutely. There is no reason to change the law around liability. There is no epidemic of lawsuits. If corporations are following basic public health guidance, if they're acting reasonably under these very uncertain circumstances, there is no liability. This is simply about Senator McConnell giving something to the business lobby, the big corporation lobby, and they buy and pay for his votes through campaign contributions. And what this will do is actually give big corporations a license to kill. They can engage in any kind of reckless behavior, refuse to provide PPE to nurses, for example, and they would not be held responsible for those failures. We cannot let this go forward because it would put lives at risk. That's what this fight is fundamentally about. It's not about a dollar figure. It's not about this much money to that program. It's about this liability issue that Senator McConnell seems uniquely hung up on. Why is he the only one hung up on it? Because he is the ringleader of taking corporate donations in the United States Congress.
Congresswoman, I'm going to switch gears. I really want to ask you about this. To me, you're brilliant, and you have a way of cutting through the nonsense. You're very pragmatic. And so I want to ask you, I've heard other politicians, Democrats like President Obama and Jim Clyburn, say using the phrase defund the police was hurtful in this election. Others argue against that. They feel very strongly about it and they defend it. How do you see it? What's Katie Porter's take, and what will it take to move the ball forward on police reform?
Well, first off, I think anytime you're relying on a slogan and you're allowing a slogan to define you, you need to rethink how you're engaging with your constituents and how you're communicating with Americans. This is a slogan that activists who are fighting for justice are using. And it's our job as elected leaders to help bridge that gap and explain what they're asking for and how it would translate. I live in Irvine, California. It is the safest large city of its size, about 12 years, 15 years in a row running. I'm grateful to have strong public safety protections here. I've had to call 911 to get help for my own family. And I was grateful that a trained, qualified law enforcement officer showed up. But those very law enforcement officers also have a responsibility to do justice, to keep everybody safe in their custody, and to give equal protection under the law. And so this slogan is really about making sure that our taxpayer dollars that we give to law enforcement are going to accomplish their purpose, which is to achieve law and order, which is to make sure that everyone is treated justly. That's what a law and order system means. A law and order system is one that is free from police brutality.